Welcome. So today we're going to talk about Parshas Nitzavim. So the beginning of the Parshas Nitzavim, it says like this: it was a krisis bris on Arvis Mayav. So Moshe says, "V'loi itchem levadchem anochi karis habris." Not only with you, ke'es asher yeshno poi, whoever's here. Whoever's here, whoever is not here. What does this mean, that whoever is not here? It means the people of future generations. How do you make a bris with people of future generations? So we spoke about this a number of times, and it's kedai to repeat it again. That by Maimer Har Sinai, there was the first bris was by Maimer Har Sinai. So the Gerim says that the Gerim came down to Har Sinai. And all the neshamas were there. What does it mean all the neshamas were there? If all the neshamas were there, maybe every neshama that would ever be born was there by Har Sinai, and a neshama could be be makabel a bris. Maybe I don't know if a neshama is not really a person yet, but maybe a neshama could do that. But what's the neshamas of the Gerim? If the Rebbeinu Shalom brought the neshamas of the future Gerim, then right now they have no choice anymore. Of course, there's the issue of Idiyah and Bechira. The Rebbeinu Shalom knows the future, but it doesn't take away from free will. But if the Rebbeinu Shalom does something where, like the Rambam asks that, how could you punish the Mitzrayim? There was a Gzeira on the Mitzrayim. So that's not a kasha v'idiyah and bechira. If the Rebbeinu Shalom made a gzeira, it has to happen. So the Rambam says it's teretz. Others say different terutzim. But if the Rebbeinu Shalom brought the neshamas of the Gerim to Har Sinai, so then he was geyser that they should be Gerim. So if he was geyser, they should be Gerim. How do they have a choice not to be Gerim? The Rambam says in the Igros, V'hatam is Hager, because he decided to leave the comfort of being a guy and the safety. I know how safe it is to be a guy, but the relative safety of being a guy, and he becomes part of Klal Yisrael. And for this, we should appreciate what he did, and we should love him for it. He had no choice. The Rebbeinu Shalom took his neshama, he brought it to Har Sinai, so he had no choice. How could he not be a ger? The Rebbeinu Shalom was geyser, but he should be a ger. So I think the pshat is different. I think it says in Dasken, and it also says this, I remember exactly the lashon, that when you make a bris with the klal, with the whole klal. And the Gemara says in Tmura Tezvav Amud Beis that ein tzibur meisim. I spoke about it a different time a little bit. I don't want to get into it so much at length, but ein tzibur meisim. The tzibur is a body. It's a corpus. And the body has many cells, and some cells over a period of time, some cells die and other cells grow to replace it, and there's constant interchange of old cells and new cells. But the corpus is the same. The body is the same. A person who's in jail can't come to the warden after 10 years and say, all my cells changed already, practically, even the cells of the decision-making part of the brain, everything changed, so you have to let me out. That wasn't me. I didn't do this. No, of course, it is you. The cells changed, but the body is the same. Ein tzibur mason. So when you make a bris with the klal. You make a bris with the klal. When you have in America, everybody in America is obligated to the Constitution. Who signed on the Constitution? No. American society, the klal, signed on to the Constitution, and that obligates American society as long as it exists. So over here, that's what he's saying. I'm not making the bris with Yechidim, I'm making the bris with you as a group, as a klal, and as klal. So Memela, it obligates you, because as long as you're part of the klal, the neshamas that came to Har Sinai, they didn't come there as individual neshamas, but every neshama, besides being an individual neshama, becomes part of neshama klolis, and the neshama klolis was at Har Sinai. So every ger, every child, every person that comes in the future, but he becomes part of the neshama klolis. The neshama klolis was there, so Memela, everybody was there, but not as individual. They were there as part of the klal. Ein tzibur mesim. So I just want to add something here when we get this inyan, which really belongs in Parshas Eikev, but I only thought of it during Kriyas HaTorah on Parshas Eikev, so it was too late to say it in Eikev. So I'd like to say it now, but it relates to this. So in Parshas Eikev, in Parshas Kisisa, first of all, after the Egel, so the pasuk tells us, Vayikach es Egel, Moshe took the Egel, Asher also they made, Vayisrav ba'esh, he burned it, Vayitchanad asher dok, and then he took the residue, the ashes, and he ground it until it was very powdery. Vayizar al pnei hamayim, he threw it into the water. Vayashkes b'nei Yisrael, and he gave it to Klal Yisrael to drink. And this was, Rashi says, it was baidik them like a saita. It was baidik them like a saita. Just like by a saita, she drinks the water, and that's baidik if she was a tzedekes or if she was mizana. So over here also, the water will be baidik if this person was actually actively served avodah zarah, the egel, or if not. So that was baidik. Okay, but that's what happens over here. Now, if you look in Parshas Eikev, so Moshe Rabbeinu is telling them the story of what happened with the egel. So he says, I burned it in the fire. I ground it up hativ till it became like dust. I put the dust into the stream that was coming down from the mountain, which this was the Be'er Shel Miriam. They probably put it up on the slope because everybody drank it. It flowed through the Machna. It was like a river flowing through the Machna, and everybody drank from that water that came out from the stone, the Be'er Shel Miriam. So they probably put it up on the mountain so that gravity, it would push it down so it would spread throughout the Machna. It doesn't say over there was a Nachal, but it means the same thing. The water that they had was the Be'er Shel Miriam, and nothing. That's it. I put the offer into the Nachal Yorb Nahar, and doesn't say anything else. What happened to Vayashkes Yisrael? He's telling them what happened. Why didn't he tell them Vayashkes Yisrael, that he gave them to drink? Doesn't say. So I noticed this on Shabbos. I asked a couple of people. People were talking, really? They never noticed it. It's not here. I think the pshat's like this. That Moshe Rabbeinu, Sefer Dvarim is the Sefer of Teichacha. First Rashi in Dvarim says, Ela Dvarim is Divrei Teichacha. He's giving them Teichacha. But they weren't there. These people weren't there. The Arvis Moav is a new generation. But they're still responsible for the Egel because the Klal is responsible for the Egel. Ein Tzibur Mesim. So those people saying the Arvis Moav were the same people that did the Egel. And you and I today, that are here today, are also the same people that were there by the Egel. The Klal is still here. It's the same Klal. The Klal that's here today is the Klal that stood at Har Sinai. The Klal never changes. Ein Tzibur Mesim. And that's why every generation, the Rebbeinu Shalom is Pereya a little bit from every generation, because every generation has to bear the responsibility of the Egel. Even though nobody today was actually danced around the Egel, but the Egel was a chet of the Klal, and we are the Klal, so therefore we have to atone for it. So Moshe Rabbeinu was giving them Teichacha. Now, apparently, what happened to Kisisa was two different things. One thing was that they ground it up and put it into the water. That was a separate thing from the Vayashkas Yisrael. That was biur. That you have this terrible avodah zarah, this egel, and what they had to do is you had to grind it up, powder it, and it's mamish a fine powder, which is like, that's a lot of biur, of things you have to be mevayer. But not only that, you have to dissolve it in water so it's completely disappeared. That's the inyan, the first inyan. That's what you have to do. That part is not because later you're going to use it for hashkah. That's a thing in itself. That you have to destroy it to the point where it completely ceases to exist, where it's not even a powder, where it's dissolved in the water. That's one thing. And the second thing is that he used this water, because it was dissolved in it, used this water to be boidik, to find out who actually danced around the egel. So in Akev, Moshe only told them the first part. He told them about grinding it down and dissolving it. He didn't tell them about the second part. Why? Because Akev is giving them techacha. It's giving them techacha for the aveira of the egel, that you had to grind it up, and you had to you had to take this powder and dissolve it in water. It shows you how chomer this was, more chomer than anything else. This was like the worst of the worst. That the destruction of it had to be absolute more than anything else in the Torah. So he's telling them, you are responsible for the chet egel. You have to tshuva for it. You're bearing the chet of the egel as the klal, and look what kind of a chet it is. I had to grind it up and dissolve it in water. Look what kind of a chet it is. So Mamela, this was part of Techacha. But the Yashkas Yisrael was to identify the individuals that danced around the egel. That is not relevant today. None of all those individuals are dead and gone. This is new people over here. None of them danced around the egel. So the fact that he went and he used this water to identify those individuals, that is not relevant in Devarim. So in Devarim he only says the first part, which shows you how chomer the egel was, that they had to be dissolved in water. That part is the teichacha, because now you, as a klal, bear responsibility for that chet. But that he gave him to drink, that not. So I just want to add one nakuda here. But it's also the idea of the klal is very, very important to understand many things in the Torah, to understand that the individual and the klal are two separate things, not the same thing. So I just wanted to add one little nakuda over here, that it says like a soita, that this was supposed to be binding them like a soita. Now, a soita, there was you took the shema mefarish and you put it in the water and dissolved it in the water, and the soita drank the water in which the shema mefarish was dissolved. So what is the comparison of making a bedika with dissolved shema mefarish to making a bedika with a dissolved avodah zorah? I mean, how are they related to each other? Lahavdil chas v'shalom. What does it mean to be binding them like soitas? So I think that it's a binary choice. It's always either a tzaddik or a rasha. Either she was a tzedekis or she was mizana. Either they danced by they did not dance by the egel, or they did dance by the egel. One of the two. So I think that by soita, the shema mefarish is mevarer the tzaddik. It's mevarer the tzaddikas. It identifies who's the tzaddikas. The shema mefarish pulls out the tzaddikas, and if she was mizana, so by default you know that she was mizana, and she gets punished. But the bedika is to be mevarer the tzaddikas. Over here, when you get by the egel, the dust of the avodah zarah water pulled out its own. It was mevarer the rasha, and memela we knew who the tzaddik was because that he survived, so we knew he was the tzaddik. So the comparison is it's bedika, but it works the opposite. That soita is baidik through the shem mefarish finds a tzaddik, and over here the avodah zarah is baidik through it's baidik to find who the rasha is. Okay. Now I'd like to say one more thing here, also actually connecting back to Akev. So it says Miesh Bechem Shirish Pirish Rois Volana. You say Beshiras Libe Elech. You can do whatever you want. The person is not going to have Yiras Shamayim. Not going to have Yiras Shamayim. Then they're going to have all the clothes are going to get them. So if you look in Akev, it says like this. Famous pasuk, but a famous Gemara. Vata Yisrael, Mo Hashem Elokecha shoyel me'imach ki im leyiras Hashem Elokecha. What does Hashem want from you? All He wants from you is to have yiras shamayim. Yiras shamayim, we were talking about yiras roimus, not yiras einish. I mean, of course, a person should be afraid that if he does something and get punished, be afraid. So that's natural. A person should have yiras einish. If you're a maiman, then you know that you're gonna that you can get punished. So you have yiras einish, but yiras roimus, yiras shamayim, to have that's what we're talking about over here. And Rabbi says, Moshe says, what does Hashem want from you? Just have yiras shamayim. That's it. Simple thing, yiras shamayim. So the Gemara says like this. Amar Rav Chanina. Hakol b'dei shamayim chutz miyiras shamayim. Yiras shamayim is up to you. V'ati Yisrael mo Hashem Elokecha shalom achim v'yira. So the Gemara says like this: Atu yiras shamayim milsa zutra sehi. It's like it's a small thing. Is it a small thing? Yiras shamayim is a big madrega. Yiras shamayim, person is a yiras shamayim. So the Gemara answers. Not going to do the whole Gemara. Just the Gemara says. So the Gemara answers en. L'gabi Moshe milsa zutra sehi. For Moshe, it was a small thing. This is a Pliyadika Gemara. You know, Moshe Rabbeinu was like the biggest tzaddik. He was in the highest madrega. So for him, yiras shamayim was not a big thing. But you're talking to Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael is regular people. So what do you mean? Because for you it's an easy thing. I mean, it's everybody tells the on this Gemara. It's what's the shaykhs of having that for Moshe it was an easy thing to have yiras shamayim? What does that have to do with Klal Yisrael? What is he telling us about yiras shamayim? I think it's just like this. Why does Rabban Shalom need yira, that you should have yira? Why does Rabban Shalom need that? He needs you should obey. Rabban Shalom gives it tzivu, he needs you should obey. But so you obey because of yiras einish. If you don't obey, you'll get punished. But why does it need that you should have yira from him? That you should sit there, that you should shake? So the Rambam, we spoke about this also a number of times. The Rambam in the 5th parak of Shemona Prakim and many places in the Moreh Nevuchim says that the ikar that Rabban Shalom wants is Yidiyas Hashem. He wants you to recognize Him. Now we spoke that this is the inyan of Ein Tzur Kolakenu, Ein Tzayer Kolakenu. The Rabban Shalom is the painter. The Rabban Shalom is the artist. The Rabban Shalom is the creator. He made the world because He's the creator and not the other way around. The Rabban Shalom is the creator. It's a midah of the Rabban Shalom. The Rabban Shalom is creative. He's wise and he's just and he's creative. And he's creative. He created the world. So, and that's that He created the world. So Tanchuma says that adds a little wrinkle to what this Gemara says. Tanchuma says that when a bas of Adam makes a tzura, he is mishabeach the tzura. When the tzura, when the Rabban Shalom makes the tzura is mishabeach him. So what the Medrash is saying is that as far as the artistry of what the Rabban Shalom did, he not only did he create a beautiful world with the stars and planets and galaxies and mountains and valleys and oceans and trees and flowers and butterflies. I mean, gorgeous world. You know, not only did he do that, but he also created a world that has consciousness, that has intellect, that has free will, and that world and free will is able to recognize Him. That is beyond. That's like the spitz of what He did. So the Rebbeinu Shalom, that's what He wants. He wants that you should recognize Him. He wants Yidiyas Hashem. That's what He wants. That's what He needs. Now, when a person is in the presence of a king, or in the presence of big gadol, people get nervous, they get a little bit, shake a little bit. Why do you get nervous? Why do you shake? Why? So somebody once told me that he was by dedication of a small airport, and the president was there, and they weren't one of the presidents, I forget which one, and there was a small crowd, there not many people, and the president saw him with a yarmulke, so he called him over, and he said, "Thank you, Rabbi, for coming," and he gave him his hand, he shook his hand, and that was it. And he told me that he felt it sitta. Why did he feel it sitta? Was he going to hit him? Was he going to do anything to him? Why did he feel it sitta? Why does a person standing in such a situation, why does he get nervous? Why does he feel like a tremble? Why does he tremble? The reason why I think is like this, that a person has a certain sense of himself, what he is, he's a chashuv person, maybe he has a big house, maybe he has a private jet, I don't know. He has a certain sense of himself. But when you're standing in the presence of somebody that's way bigger than you, that has much more power than you, when you're standing in the presence of the president, or whatever you think of him personally, but he is the most powerful person in the world, and you're standing in his presence, so automatically, by comparison, you shrink. You become smaller. You become partially negated. Part of you is, first you were like this, now you're this. A good part of you is lost, it's gone. That is a terrifying feeling. The feeling of negation, of becoming, of being wiped away, that becoming smaller, becoming shrunk, that's a terrifying feeling. So that's why you give a tremble automatically, subconsciously. You don't even think through the process of, because he's big, there's this. It's subconscious and it's automatic. You're standing in front of a gadol, you're standing in front of a big gadol, and that's like, what am I, this and that? So all of a sudden, like I'm nothing, so I just shrank. So so automatically, instinctively, you tremble. This is why the Rebbe Shalom wants you to have Yiras Shamayim. He doesn't need you to be afraid of him. He's not looking for kavod. He's not looking for power that he should. I mean, if a person would say, "I need you to be afraid of me," I would say that this person is insecure and immature, maybe. But the Rebbe Shalom doesn't need you actually to be afraid of him. He needs you to have Yedias Hashem. And if you have Yedias Hashem, then you have Yira. So the Yira is a siman. If a person really has Yira, that means that he came to a madrega of Yiras Hashem. He's talking makir, the infinite godless of the Rebbe Shalom to a certain extent. So Mamela he feels diminished. So Mamela he has a tzita. So Moshe Rabbeinu. So people think that to work on Yiras Shamayim, I want to work on Yiras Shamayim. It means I'm gonna daven harder. I'm gonna shake. I'm gonna fast. I'm gonna do different things. Right? I'm gonna daven long and jump and I don't know, whatever. Go to the mikveh 3 times a day. This is people want to do different things to work on Yiras Shamayim. So Moshe Rabbeinu like this. He says, it's not hard to have Yiras Shamayim. You don't have to work on it. You just have to have Yedias Hashem. If you have Yedias Hashem, Yiras Shamayim comes Mamela. You don't have to specifically work on having Yiras Shamayim. And Moshe Rabbeinu knew this. Why did he know this? Because he was always in the presence of the Rebbeinu Shalom. He always was faced with the infinite godless of the Rebbeinu Shalom, and he always had it sitta. So he knew that he didn't have that it's not because that was the high madrega that he had Yira. He had Yira because he had Yediyah. He had more Yediyah than anybody else. So Memela he felt enough he felt very small by comparison, and he had Yira. He trembled. He had that feeling. So Moshe Rabbeinu knew from his own experience that Yira doesn't need any special effort. All you have to do is be focused on Yedias Hashem. So he says, for you too, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is focus on Yedias Hashem, and if you focus on Yedias Hashem, you will have Yira. This is what he said. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you again next week.